Welcome to our deep dive on the 529 dilemma. How much is enough for college, and when should you keep contributing versus pause? We'll explore the overfunding myth, the new Roth IRA rollover flexibility, prioritizing retirement, glide paths, state tax breaks, and multi-generational strategies. Let's begin by previewing what's ahead, and then we'll move into the details. Here's today's roadmap. We'll start with the context behind the overfunding concern, then examine why the penalty is often overstated. Next, we'll explain the new 529 to Roth rollover rules. After that, we'll stress why maxing retirement often comes first. We'll then unpack glide paths, highlight valuable state tax benefits, and explore multi-generational options. Finally, we'll walk through a simple decision framework, take 2 short quizzes, and close with key takeaways. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Everyone's situation is different, so consult a qualified professional before making decisions. With that in mind, let's transition to the core myth that stops many families from contributing to their 529s. Many families fear overfunding a 529 because of the 10% penalty. It's crucial to clarify that the penalty only applies to earnings on non-qualified withdrawals, not your principal contributions. When contributions are stopped prematurely, families may miss years of compounding tax-free growth and possibly state tax benefits. The account is also more flexible than people realize, including beneficiary changes and, now, a Roth IRA rollover option up to a $35,000 lifetime cap. We'll expand on that rollover next, but first recognize that the typical future cost and balance projections rely on assumptions. Importantly, projected returns usually decline as college approaches due to glide path de-risking, which we'll cover shortly. The Secure 2.0 changes introduced a new flexibility, a lifetime rollover from a 529 to the beneficiary's Roth IRA, capped at $35,000 per beneficiary. The 529 must have been open at least 15 years, and the rollover is constrained by the beneficiary's annual Roth IRA contribution limits and earned income requirements. Contributions and earnings made in roughly the last 5 years are generally ineligible for rollover. Additionally, states may treat rollovers differently for tax purposes and could potentially recapture prior deductions, so verify local rules. The practical takeaway is that surplus 529 funds need not be wasted. They can, over time, support tax-free retirement growth. Now let's transition to how investment risk and returns change as college gets closer. Most age-based 529 portfolios follow a glide path, shifting from higher stock allocations in early years to more bonds and cash near college. This reduces volatility when tuition payments begin, but also lowers expected returns. Many spreadsheet projections assume a constant high return, which may overstate future growth in the final years. Therefore, contribution decisions should account for decreasing return assumptions as the beneficiary approaches age 18. Next, we'll compare 529s with Roth IRAs to put prioritization in context. A 529 shines for education, tax-free qualified growth, potential state tax incentives, and beneficiary flexibility with the new Roth rollover backstop. However, non-qualified earnings face a 10% penalty and taxes. Spending options are narrower, and glide paths reduce return expectations. A Roth IRA, in contrast, is a retirement-first vehicle offering broad flexibility. Contributions to a Roth can be withdrawn anytime without tax or penalty, making it a powerful dual-purpose safety valve. Because of this flexibility, many advisors recommend prioritizing retirement accounts first, then funding the 529 strategically. Next, we'll highlight some sample state benefits to consider capturing annually. Many states offer deductions or credits for 529 contributions. Examples include Indiana's credit up to a capped amount, New York's deduction for in-state plans, Pennsylvania's per beneficiary deduction with any plan, Arizona's deduction for any plan, and Colorado's capped deduction per beneficiary. These details can change, and some states may recapture benefits if funds are not used for qualified expenses or if certain rollovers occur. Always verify your state's current rules. Now let's turn this into a practical decision framework you can follow each year. Here's a practical sequence. First, prioritize retirement. Capture your employer match. Then fund your Roth IRA if eligible. Then add more to retirement. Second, ensure you contribute enough to your 529 to obtain any state deduction or credit. Third, model multiple college scenarios to set a savings target. Fourth, Check whether your 529 has been open long enough to make the Roth rollover viable in the future, and track the $35,000 lifetime cap. Fifth, evaluate other flexibilities like scholarships, beneficiary changes, K-12 tuition where allowed, apprenticeship programs, and limited student loan repayment. Sixth, right-size annual contributions based on time horizon and glide path. Finally, review annually to reflect market changes, state rule updates, and revised college plans. Next, let's test your knowledge with a quick quiz. Quiz time. Question: which is true about the 10% 529 penalty often cited in overfunding fears? Option A: it applies to both principal and earnings on non-qualified withdrawals. Option B: it applies only to earnings on non-qualified withdrawals, not principal. Option C: it applies to all withdrawals once the account exceeds a certain balance. Option D: it applies only if you change the beneficiary. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is that the 10% penalty applies only to earnings on non-qualified withdrawals, not principal. This distinction is one reason the overfunding fear is often overstated. A 529 can serve more than one learner over time. You may change the beneficiary to a qualifying family member, including siblings, parents, cousins, and even future grandchildren. That means excess funds can remain invested for decades, supporting future education needs and acting like a multi-generational education trust. This flexibility reduces the risk that any contribution is wasted. Next, let's visualize smart uses for surplus funds. Surplus 529 money has multiple potential uses. It can continue to fund qualified higher education, including graduate and professional programs. The new Roth IRA rollover option provides a retirement backstop up to a $35,000 lifetime cap, constrained by annual contribution limits and earned income. Certain K-12 tuition expenses may qualify, depending on state conformity. Registered apprenticeship program costs can be qualified as well. There is also a limited student loan repayment provision, subject to lifetime caps and state treatment. Finally, beneficiary changes let you redirect funds to another family member. Now let's take a second quiz focused on the rollover rules. Second quiz: which statement best describes the 529 to Roth IRA rollover rules? Option A: the 529 must be open at least 15 years. Option B: there is a $35,000 lifetime cap per beneficiary. Option C: rollovers are subject to annual Roth limits and require earned income. Option D: all of the above. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is all of the above. The 529 must be at least 15 years old. The lifetime rollover cap is $35,000 per beneficiary, and rollovers are subject to the beneficiary's annual Roth IRA contribution limits and earned income requirements. Before finalizing contributions, sanity check assumptions for inflation, expected returns, and the glide path's impact. Use simple compounding formulas to project future costs and balances, but remember that as the portfolio de-risks, expected returns decrease. This helps avoid over-reliance on high, late-stage return assumptions. Next, we'll summarize the most important takeaways you can act on this year. The essential points are as follows. First, the 10% penalty applies only to earnings on non-qualified withdrawals. Second, prioritize retirement and recognize the flexibility of Roth IRAs. Third, don't let high balances alone stop contributions. Consider state benefits and the new Roth rollover backstop. Fourth, remember that glide paths reduce expected returns later. Fifth, 529s can benefit multiple family members across generations. Finally, when retirement is on track and tax-advantaged accounts are maximized, continuing to fund the 529 strategically is often a sound choice. To wrap up, overfunding fears are frequently overstated. The 529 to Roth rollover provides a valuable release valve, and retirement should typically come first. Use realistic assumptions that reflect glide path de-risking, and view the 529 as a potentially multi-generational tool. Now, as a final step, I'd love your support and engagement. Thank you for watching. If this video is helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your strategies and questions in the comments. Your feedback helps guide future episodes. See you next time.